Welcome back to Real Talk with Kietta. We're sitting here talking to Siohvaughn Wade. Now, Siohvaughn, when you went to Miami and you was going through all that turmoil and all that distress, you had plenty of friends, didn't you? I mean, the other basketball wives, you wasn't really connected, or did you have any friends in Miami, or?
I mean, I did. I at least thought I had a lot of friends, you know. More friends than somebody could count, you know.
And would your friends come back and tell you something they were saying that Dwayne was doing?
Yeah, they definitely would.
And your reactions would be?
I would be hurt. I would be angry sometimes, disappointed.
Were you two violent with one another?
Has it ever gotten physical?
Yes.
Yes, it has.
And I have a report here in October of 2006 that you actually went to the hospital and you were pregnant.
Yes, I was pregnant with Zion.
And you admitted having abdominal pain.
Yes.
Can you tell me what happened here?
Well, shortly before being hospitalized, I was in Florida, and I woke up in the middle of the night because I was sick, obviously with the pregnancy, and I noticed that Mr. Wade wasn't in the house. And so I was calling him because it was probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we went to bed together, which means he must have gotten up out of the bed and just left in the middle of the night without telling me. And so I was looking for him. I looked around the house. I was calling his phone. He didn't answer. He finally got back several hours later. It was well into the next day, and I was very upset. You know, I was angry. I was, asking him where was he and why did he just leave without saying anything
Rightfully
to
so.
me.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I was his wife. Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
And his response to me was first being verbally abusive. He was cursing. He was calling me names. He was telling me shut the F up. Women talk too effing much, and I need to know my place and things like that. And then that made me more angry. That made me say, like, what is he talking? Women need to know their place, and why is he speaking to me like that? And then it turned into physical violence. He picked me up and held me over his head, literally in midair, and threw me down in our bathroom.
While you were pregnant?
Yes,
and
while I was
pregnant. I just want to make sure we clarify. He knew you were carrying a child.
I'm not sure what he knew, but we had Zion on purpose. We planned that pregnancy.
So that's what I'm saying. So he knew you were with child.
Yes.
And he picked you up.
He picked me up, and he slammed me down. And we had an ottoman in the bathroom at that time, a piece of furniture in the center of our master bathroom. And he slammed me down so hard that when my back hit the ottoman, it broke into 4 pieces. And then my back and my head hit the concrete, the marble floor, in the bathroom. And then after that, I got up and I immediately went, there's a cordless phone in the bathroom. I immediately went to that phone and I was crying. I was hysterical, and I went to go call the police. And when I did that, I would say more hell broke loose. At that point, I suppose because he was in fear of being exposed, because I certainly was going to call the police. And I picked up the cordless phone. He snatched it out of my hand, and he threw the cordless phone against my body so hard that the phone literally broke into pieces.
Are you serious? No.
Yes, I am, unfortunately.
Was anyone there when that happened?
Yeah, there were a couple of people there. No one was inside of the master bathroom. Actually, when I tried to run out of the bathroom, he came and with his body barricaded the door. Then he reached behind him and locked the door and stood with his body in front of it so that I couldn't leave the bathroom. So the only thing I could do was scream. At that time he had a gun in the house, and I was very afraid because the gun was in the closet, and we were right there by that closet, and him being so violent, I became like very desperate to get out. I just remember thinking, I really need to get out of here. It's like way beyond out of control.
Honestly, at that point, do you really remember, as far as, when I say remember, as you're speaking to me, are you going back to that moment?
Yes, I am.
Did you really, honestly in your heart, feel as though that you were in fear for your life?
Absolutely, without a question. I knew when he picked me up in the air like that, when the furniture broke in pieces, and the amount of force that he was using, you know, I was even able to realize how physically strong he was at that moment. It was like, it was very scary. It was literally terrifying.
So when the phone was broken, how did you get out of the home?
I was screaming and I was screaming, and then eventually there were other people in the house, and he had a male cousin that came to the door. And I don't know if he came in the door, busted in the door, or how he got in, but I know that the door eventually got open and I was able to get out, and from there I left the house. I left Miami.
And you went where?
I went to my mom. I went to my mom in Chicago.
Because this is where you felt safe.
Yes.
And this is where you actually checked into the hospital.
Yeah, when I went to my mom's house, you know, I didn't want to say anything to anybody else just because of the threats that he was making when I said I was going to call the police. So I went and I told my mom what had happened, and that same day, like right when I got into her house, thank God I at least got in her care by that time, I literally fainted. And so my mom was picking me up off the kitchen floor, and she drove me to Christ Hospital.
As I read this report, it says that you had abdominal pain. You were complaining about that. Nowhere in here does it mention that you and your husband were actually physically fighting, that he actually threw you down, threw a phone at you and broke it on you. Why didn't you tell anybody?
At that time, I knew in my mind that that was going to make it way worse.
Siohvaughn, did you confide in anyone other than your mother that Dwayne was physically abusive to you?
A pastor at that time.
And what did he direct you to do at that point?
He prayed. He was more focused on, he gave me more advice for myself. He was saying that to make sure that I take care of myself because I had a son, and to make sure that I stayed strong. He didn't so much address whether I should stay married to him or not, and you know, whether we should get counseling or anything like that. He was just more focused on me not allowing what had happened and what had been happening to destroy me, because I had a life and I had a son to raise.
Do you feel like, Siohvaughn, that you gave up your dreams to support Dwayne's dreams?
I absolutely did.
Were you lost in that life?
Yes, I was. I was, at that point in time, I would say, a basketball wife. I was married to him, the sport, the lifestyle, you know, and I lost myself in all of that. I lost who I was. People wouldn't even address me anymore by my name. I wasn't even Siohvaughn anymore. I just became Dwayne Wade's wife, you know, and I just lost myself. After all of this happened, I remember asking myself, now what did I like to do? I had to ask myself, what was I doing before the draft? And I had to sit and ask myself sincerely, what were my dreams? What did I plan to do? If this would have never happened, or he never would have went to the NBA, what exactly was I doing before this happened to us, before he was drafted, before all this money came into the picture, before fame was an issue? And I had to, you know, with God's leading, find myself again, find who I was and my identity all over.
Were women actually disrespectful to you, Siohvaughn? Openly disrespectful to you when you were married to Dwayne?
Yes, they were. Some women were just very, very nasty. Probably the worst, one of the worst ones, just openly and in my face. There was a woman who taken off her panties. And while I was walking with Mr. Wade at that time, she'd taken off her panties and walked over to us, and she made just a disgusting, vulgar comment, and she had her panties in her hand. And when I was saying to him, just keep walking, she threw them. And so she literally threw them towards us, and that was right while I was walking beside him.
Through all this turmoil and what all you were going through down in Miami, did you still have hope that it would work between you all before you all officially separated?
Well, before I, you know, got into the lifestyle and lost who I was, and even, you know, did things that I later regretted doing, I was always a woman of faith. You know, I was always somebody who believed in God. And so I certainly had faith. You know, and I knew this, if I got into that lifestyle and I made some changes for the worse and God turned me around, I believe that he could be turned around. You know, and that was really where my hope was in, where people can say, well, he's behaving to this magnitude. What makes you still have hope? It was that, you know, I wasn't perfect. And God, you know, he helped me. He restored me. He changed me. And so I was thinking, of course, with God's help, not anything in his own strength, that, you know, there was hope for him. And then with that, there was hope for the family.
Siohvaughn, does money truly buy you respect?
Not respect, not happiness. No, it doesn't.
What did it buy you?
Well, I afforded a lot more problems. I can certainly tell you that.
Did you have a lot of yes ma'am and yes sir people around you?
We had to jump. How high would you like us to jump people? We were surrounded with them. We were
And at that time when you were surrounded, you couldn't see that they was only around you because of what you all had.
Oh no, I was completely blinded. I was flattered. I was just completely blind. I thought that they were all my friends. I was certain that they all loved me. You know, not too many places I would go that they didn't go with me, of course, at my expense. And so I thought honestly that they were my friends. I was completely blinded.
You mentioned to me in the past that you've heard Dwayne literally at the top of his lungs scream, "Everybody loves me." Do you honestly believe, with the fortune and fame that he has now and then, that he truly believes everybody loves him?
I'm not certain about what he believes, and I don't know if that's as important as the truth. And the truth is, I know that everybody doesn't. I mean, even Jesus was crucified, and he was Christ. You know, they crucified him. So I'm very certain that none of us here on the face of the earth just have it where everybody just loves and adores us truly. That's just not the case.
That's not the case.
Not at all.
Well, we're going to talk more about a lot of different cases, and I also want to bring out your last standing friend when we get back from the break. We'll be back with more Real Talk with Kietta.